The latest iteration of Star Trek, a David E. Kelley legal drama with a familiar name, Mike Myers making his return to comedy, and a pair of true crime drama shows as well, all on the docket this week for TV, news, and reviews. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to TV News and Reviews for the week. We've got 6 new shows to talk about, including that new Star Trek one called Strange New Worlds. Also, The Lincoln Lawyer over on Netflix, and Mike Myers in the Pentaverate, a comedy where he plays like 8 different roles. We've got Candy and The Staircase, both true crime series. Candy starring Jessica Biel, The Staircase starring Colin Firth, and a remake of a French comedy series which was called Call Your Agent. This one is called 10%. And that's going to be our 6 shows this week that we're going to talk about for TV news and reviews. We do this show every week. I pick 5 or 6 brand new series and tackle those for you, as well as the week in TV news. So if you like that kind of stuff, join us every week for TV news and reviews. So not a ton in the news this week. Like I mentioned last week, broadcast networks kind of winding down their seasons. They had their upfronts a few weeks ago, so not a ton of news, but a few things to talk about. In renewals, we've got Slow Horses, which is a show I admit I did not really care for. I know my buddy Tim really liked it. He's come on my channel, often, really, doing Disney reviews and sometimes the movie reviews. But I know he really likes this show. But I was a little lukewarm on it myself. But it's been renewed for 2 more seasons now, and that's on Apple TV Plus. Seasons 3 and 4 will be coming at some point. They shot seasons 1 and 2 together. They didn't sort of reveal up front that they've already done 2 seasons of it. But we got season 1 like maybe 3 months ago, and then season 2 will be coming later this year, but it's already completely been filmed, and now we find out it's been renewed for seasons 3 and 4. And another streaming series getting a 4th season is High School Musical, the musical, the series. That's the full title. Disney Plus has renewed that now for season 4. I only ever watched the first maybe 2 episodes of that so I could review it for you guys way back when Disney Plus launched. This is one of their first original programs. And I did a video called Is Disney Plus Worth It? Obviously, we know the answer is yes, but this is one of the shows I actually didn't particularly care for. But whatever, obviously, they're getting a good enough response from it that they are putting it on season 4. Series endings. Well, The Good Fight is going to be finished with season 6 on Paramount Plus. It was the first ever scripted series for CBS All Access. It was a spinoff of the CBS program The Good Wife. Now CBS All Access, of course, is called Paramount Plus. But I would have guessed it was the Star Trek show Discovery, I want to say, but I guess The Good Fight predates that a little bit. But creators Michelle and Patrick King have hinted that another series could come down the line in this same universe, either with the same characters or just sort of, maybe the same law firm, but other characters or whatever it may be. But, I'm a couple seasons behind, I will admit, but The Good Wife, one of my top dramas of the last, 10 or 20 years, and The Good Fight is up there as well. I've seen at least, I think, 3 seasons of that, and season 6 will be airing, I believe, later on this year. And then, of course, Ellen, season endings, series endings. Ellen is done after 19 years. Her final guests included Jennifer Aniston, Billie Eilish, and Pink. I will admit I haven't watched really 1 minute of Ellen since all of that drama happened a couple of years ago with the behind-the-scenes stuff. I know a lot of people have also tuned out because of that sort of stuff. Maybe Ellen's not as nice as she appears. But look, the truth is I don't really watch any daytime talk shows. I don't watch Kelly Clarkson. I don't watch Live with Kelly and Ryan. So it's whatever. But I will admit I did used to sort of watch some interview clips on YouTube every now and then with Ellen. And I haven't really done that the last couple of years. I guess I will maybe catch some scenes from this last episode, but yeah, that is it. All right, so in casting news, I don't believe we talked about this last week, but this happened now a couple of weeks ago. But the 4 people leaving SNL, Kate McKinnon, Adie Bryant, Pete Davidson, and Kyle Mooney. Of those 4, I know Pete Davidson has a show coming up with Edie Falco playing his mom. I forget what the name of it is, but it's going to be produced by Lorne Michaels. I think it's on Peacock. It's either on Peacock or on NBC proper. But other than that, I haven't heard about any other projects from any of these people. Kate McKinnon had, I think, the longest run of all of these people, with maybe like 9 or 10 years. But I will be honest, anything I've seen her in that isn't SNL has fallen kind of flat for me. I thought she was one of the weak members of the female Ghostbusters. I really didn't like her agent turn in the movie yesterday at all. It took me right out of the movie. So I'm not quite sure what her future really holds in terms of TV and film. A.D. Bryant, Shrill was a very good show, but that's about all I've seen really of her outside of SNL that was any good. And then Kyle Mooney, I think, has a very interesting, unique comedic voice. So he could do something sort of on the oddball circuit, and maybe streaming services is where he might go next. That would make sense. But other than that, in other casting news, we've got Jodie Foster, who is going to star in True Detective Season 4. I announced that there would be a Season 4 not too long ago, but yeah, she is going to be heading that up. And, we'll see. I mean, I love Jodie Foster. She has not done a TV series, at least in a sort of full-time capacity, since she was a kid. Even almost before she did all of her Disney stuff, she was showing up in like Mayberry RFD and some of those sitcoms of the early 70s. So this will be her first regular role in a while. We've got Anthony Anderson leaving Law and Order already. He was only contracted for that first reboot season, which is sort of weird because Blackish was still in production this past season as well for its final. So he was, I guess, doing both at once, and then he also hosts To Tell the Truth. I would have thought it'd be easier for him to stick it out now that Blackish has been canceled, but what have you. He is done with the Law & Order universe for now, at least. I don't think they killed his character or anything, so I guess he could return. Alexis Bledel is leaving The Handmaid's Tale after 4 seasons. I don't watch the show. I know her mainly from Gilmore Girls, but I guess she was one of the stars, and she's been on it since the beginning, I guess. So she is out there. And then Matthew Morrison, who used to be on Glee, he is out as a judge on So You Think You Can Dance. There were some inappropriate texts sent to a female contestant. I heard both sides sort of this story. It seems pretty innocuous. He claims that he was just wanting to chat with this girl. Well, she's a grown woman. She's not a girl. We should make that clear. But about, her potential as a choreographer and whatever. But he did sort of breach the protocol with, outside messages with contestants, so even though maybe they weren't inappropriate, as some people are sort of saying, I don't know, but it seems kind of innocent. But at the same time, he obviously broke protocol by direct messaging her at all, so makes sense. So he is out on So You Think You Can Dance. All right. In odds and ends, I've got some interesting ratings news for you with Stranger Things Season 4. I know a lot of you out there love that Stranger Things. Season 4 blew away Netflix's English release record for a first weekend. Bridgerton Season 2, listen to this, had 193 million minutes of worldwide viewing that first 3 days. Stranger Things Season 4 had almost 100 million more, 286 million in just 3 days. So Bridgerton went on to claim Netflix's most watched English language series of all time over its first 28 days, with about 656 million. Stranger Things Season 4 is about 44% of that in just 3 days. So I imagine that's going to just shatter the Bridgerton record. In terms of worldwide international language stuff, Squid Game still comes out on top, and then Season 5 of Money Heist is also ahead of Bridgerton for those first 28 days. But we'll see where Stranger Things lands. Season 4 of that obviously is a huge deal, and we're not done with it yet. We're going to get 2 more supersized feature-length episodes coming in July. So in reboots and spinoffs for the week, I only have one, and that is Speed Racer. There's a live-action Speed Racer program coming to Apple TV Plus. J.J. Abrams and his Bad Robot production company are going to produce this. I saw the Speed Racer movie, which was horrible. But I know a lot of people do love that original show. I was never like a super fan. But I'd seen a few episodes here and there. I knew what it was, certainly. And I think Speed Racer was one of the special guests on the Scooby Doo Mysteries when they would have like the other people come in. I believe Speed Racer and Company was one of them. But anyway, I do like J.J. Abrams, so we'll see what he can make of that. I hope it's better than the movie. That's all I could say about that, but that's going to be going into production for Apple TV. All right, let's move already into the reviews for the week. Like I said, not a ton of news, but we have to start with this Star Trek program. Strange New Worlds is the name of it. And look, this is a show, or a franchise, I should say. There's a few franchises right now that you just can't kill. They keep coming out with new shows and movies every few months, every year. Star Wars, obviously, and we'll get to Obi-Wan Kenobi maybe next week. But this is one of the Marvel, certainly. But the longest lasting of them really is Star Trek. This started in the 60s, and at least, 10 to 15 years for a while there was a new show, and then it kept ramping up. You had the movies coming out in the late 70s and all through the 80s, and then 87 was Next Generation, which I would say, other than the original, is probably the biggest hit that they've ever produced. But then about 7 years after that, you had Deep Space Nine, and another 5-6 years after that, you had Enterprise, I think it was. I'm forgetting even the whole list of them now. But ever since Paramount Plus debuted as CBS All Access, it has just been one Star Trek show after the other. I've been doing this program of reviewing the new shows since late 2019, and I think this will be at least the fourth one that I've covered, because we did Picard, we did Lower Decks, which was the animated comedy one, and then the one we had recently with the kids, which was like a co-production of Nickelodeon. And I'll be honest, I forget what that one was even called. I really liked it, though. But yeah, it all sort of gets lost in the sauce. But this one is called Strange New Worlds. And this is sort of a new series, but it also is counting as sort of a sequel, or a spin-off, I should say, from Star Trek Discovery, which is the first Paramount Plus show that they put on from this universe, with Christopher Pike, who was supposed to be the original captain. If you know the lore from Star Trek, he was supposed to be the captain, and he was, I guess, in the pilot, but then Captain Kirk came on and whatever. So, but exploring the Captain Pike character is always interesting, because we've heard legend of him many, many times, and he's been, I think, a fixture in a few different series here or there, but and his character did appear in Discovery. But this is all about sort of Captain Pike's adventures, but it's with a lot of the crew from that original Enterprise. It takes place about a decade before, but you've got Spock, you've got Number One, you've got a lot of the same people that we know, not only from the original Star Trek, but then from the new J.J. Abrams movies from years ago with Chris Pine, and Zoe Saldana and all of that. So Nurse Chapel is here, Uhura is here. So a lot of the people that we know and love from that original show. But Anson Mount is playing Christopher Pike here. And I will be honest, before I knew that this was sort of a spin-off from a handful of episodes they did years ago on Discovery, from the poster, it looked to me like it was Josh Duhamel? No, the other one, Timothy Olyphant. I get those two confused. But it looked like it was Timothy Olyphant. I was like, wow, that's really cool casting. Like, what a Captain Pike. But then the show started, and I was like, I don't think this is Timothy Olyphant. But no, it's this guy, Anson Mount, who I am unfamiliar with. But you know what? Maybe that works well for it. Maybe we needed somebody that we didn't immediately recognize here. But boy, he is a really, really good Captain Pike. And some of these people that we already know, like Ethan Peck is playing Spock. I'm not familiar with him, but again, he's boarded over from an arc on Discovery. You've got, who else do we know here? Well, Rebecca Romijn, we know her, of course, from many, many things. She is, Number One, the first officer of the Enterprise, second in command to Pike, because, of course, look, Star Trek has always been about all types of people, all races, all genders, so it makes sense that they would have her be Number One. And there's a familiar face, we know Rebecca Romijn, but I'll tell you what, she actually is pretty unrecognizable. They gave her a brunette hair color, so we don't see her normal blonde that we're used to seeing her. And to be honest, I haven't really seen Rebecca Romaine in a while. And she's aged a little bit, so I didn't quite recognize her for a good bit. So look. The first episode sort of gets you in the zone. It introduces you to the people, but if you watch Discovery, you kind of already know. But the good news is, with a show like this, you don't have to spend that first episode necessarily giving us all the backstory on the characters, because if you don't know Spock, why are you watching Star Trek? Captain Pike, maybe you don't know unless you're, a bigger fan, but still, because it's on the Enterprise and it takes place just a few years before the original Star Trek that we all know and love, they don't spend a lot of time on that. And what I like the most, I think, maybe about this series is that, from what I understand, it is going to be a standalone episode by episode show. It is not going to be serialized like almost every streaming show in existence. And I'll tell you what, I like it. It's friggin' refreshing. It's rare anymore that we have a series that is just episode by episode, where there is not a through line. And that even goes for network comedies these days. For every Abbott Elementary that is sort of standalone, you get something like The Good Place, where you really have to pay attention. And it's been a while since we've gotten a Star Trek series where it is sort of just episode by episode. Picard, certainly you have to pay attention to the whole thing. It's an overarching theme. And look, for the streaming age, it's fine. I get it. I know why they do it. But it is kind of nice to once in a while have a show where you can just watch an episode here or there and not feel obligated to watch every episode in it. So I love that about it. I think the casting here is great. Everybody's doing a really good job. Spock is interesting because that's a character now that we've seen many different iterations of, and many different actors in that role, and all of them bring a little bit of themselves to that character. And I think this guy, what's his name again, Ethan Peck, is doing a really great job of bringing that to him as well. And again, he's most known really for playing Spock in Star Trek Discovery. So I am not really familiar with this guy, but this for me is the best new Star Trek show we've gotten in a long time. It's a little too early, obviously, to say, oh, well, it ranks up there with this show or that show. But I think historically, Star Trek programs have pretty bad, first few episodes or first half of seasons, like Deep Space Nine, Next Generation, really did not get going for a little while. Even Next Generation, which people love now, that first season is not good. It's very average. So this is a fantastic start to a new Star Trek series. I'm excited about these characters. I'm excited about what stories they're going to bring. I leave Strange New Worlds with an A. For me, it is one of the best new programs of the year. I really, really liked it. All right, new old program, I guess, really. All right, let's go to Netflix for our next two. Lincoln Lawyer was, of course, a movie with Matthew McConaughey years ago, but it's all based on this novel by Michael Connelly called The Lincoln Lawyer. But this particular series is actually based on one of his sequel books to The Lincoln Lawyer called The Brass Verdict. And it stars Manuel Garcia Rufio as the Lincoln Lawyer, as he's known, Mickey Haller, who is a defense attorney who basically works out of a Lincoln town car. That's when I first heard about the movie with McConaughey, I thought maybe he worked in Lincoln, Nebraska or something, but no, this guy just works out of a Lincoln town car. He does not have an office. He's free form in it. And David E. Kelley is one of the producers of this. Who, look, I love the guy. I've mentioned this several times now. I just reviewed one of his series like 2 weeks ago or something. Was that Anatomy of a Scandal, I think he was part of? But look, I always say this. I go back to Ally McBeal with David E. Kelley, one of my all-time favorite courtroom programs. The guy knows his way around a courtroom drama, and this is a pretty good one, I have to say. Now, this is another one where I was sort of hoping maybe we would get standalone episodes like an Ally McBeal or something where every week it's a new case, every episode is a different case. But no, we're going to have a through line here. He's mainly working on this one case, and it's fine, but it might have been nice to have sort of standalone episodes. But some of the people you might recognize here, Nev Campbell is in here as Mickey's former wife and a criminal prosecutor, and then Becky Newton, who I've been watching in Ugly Betty, but she's been in many things, including How I Met Your Mother. She is Mickey's current wife and his legal aid. That's pretty much, I think, all I really know in this show, at least from those first couple episodes. But yeah, I mean, look, I enjoyed the Matthew McConaughey film. I thought it was a great sort of return to form for that actor. And then that sort of started the McConaissance, as it's known. He started doing, Magic Mike and all of these movies that, Dallas Buyers Club, that were getting him attention. And I think that started with Lincoln Lawyer. And so this is a great character. And I think this new guy in the role, again, his name is Manuel Garcia Rolfo, I should say, is bringing his own sort of touch. He's not doing a McConaughey riff. He's doing his own thing, and it works. I think it's really, really interesting. I've only seen, like I usually do, the first 2 episodes, so I don't know how, we get from point A to point B, but I'm hoping that we'll get more seasons of this, and each season will be a different case, I guess. I don't know how many books there are in the franchise. And before I grade this, it is worth noting, so Michael Connelly also has this other great lawyer series called Bosch. And Bosch Legacy just came out a couple of weeks ago as well on Freevee, which used to be IMDb TV, but now it's Freevee. And I was going to watch that and review it because, okay, it's a reboot, and I never watched the original, but it's a new show. I watched like the first 5 minutes. I didn't know what was happening. And then I read up a little bit on it. And it is basically not even a reboot. It is a continuation. The original series just ended in 2021. So this is, for all intents and purposes, just the next season. So because I don't really do shows that have been on a while, I decided not to review that show. But it is interesting that this Michael Connelly guy who wrote both, the Lincoln Lawyer book and the Bosch books, these programs pretty much aired the same week. But I decided to stick with Lincoln Lawyer for that reason, that, Bosch just seems like a continuation rather than a new series. But if you like Bosch, I guess you'll love it. But yeah, I like this actor in the part. I like David E. Kelley and what he can do with a legal drama. So I'm going to leave the Lincoln Lawyer with a B+. All right, we will stay with Netflix and a high-profile program in comedy. So Mike Myers has been sort of absent from the scene for a while. Austin Powers, one of my favorite trilogy series of all time. So funny. And of course, I go back with the SNL days with him. But this show is really his first major thing in a long, long time. It's called the Pentaverate. And it's actually based on characters from his movie So I Married an Axe Murderer from 30 years ago, 1993, would be almost 30 years ago. I watched that movie one time, a long, long time ago, so I gotta be honest, I didn't really remember any of these characters, but essentially, this is about this group of mysterious people who've been working underground for the greater good, called the Pentaverate, and this Canadian news journalist is sort of uncovering or attempting to uncover the truth about some of these conspiracies, and he wants to expose the Pentaverate. So Mike Myers plays Ken Scarborough, who is the Canadian news journalist, but he also plays a conspiracy theorist at this conspiracy con. It is kind of funny. They call it Canada Conspiracy Convention, CanCon. All right, it's kind of cute. But then he plays almost all of the people in the Pentaverate as well. And then he also plays this right-wing radio host. So he plays, I think, a total of 8 characters in this show. There are a few other people who are in it. Ken Jeong, Keegan-Michael Key, Debbie Mazur, and Jennifer Saunders all have roles as well. And I think all of them play only 1 or 2 roles. So look, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this show. It is going to be a negative grade, but I feel sort of bad about that because I want Mike Myers to do more things. I have missed him. I think we all could use a nice dose of funny comedy. And I know he's been talking forever about a fourth Austin Powers movie. Is that ever going to happen? We don't know. But this is a lot of the same sort of Mike Myers shtick that we've been getting for 30 plus years. As I was watching it, what it really felt like to me was, some bad SNL sketches from his era. He's obviously adept at the let's do, 8 different roles. And I will say he's putting on different accents, and the makeup teams are great here, giving him different looks. But these jokes were just not landing, for every, and even, Can Con is not like a funny joke, but it's sort of clever, I guess. But for every one of those, there's like 10 jokes that are completely devoid of even cleverness or anything. And it made me feel bad watching it. As a TV buff myself, I know that there is an infamous TV show from the 1980s where Lucille Ball, I forget what it was called, but it was one of the ones with her name in the title, Return to Lucy or something. And it was her first show in like 15 years, and she was like, oh, we're going to do it again. And by all accounts, it was like one of the worst shows of the 80s. Like, everyone hated it. And people like felt bad for her because they were like, this is one of our comedy icons and she's making a fool of herself. And I gotta say, I got those kind of vibes from watching this show. I feel so bad because I love Mike Myers, but this is just, it's not a good show. It's not the project for him. Unfortunately, I'm going to leave the Pentaverate with a D+. I will give it to him that he's putting on different accents, and the makeup teams are great in giving him distinct personalities, but there just wasn't enough here. I like the concept of the Pentaverate. Maybe if I went back and watched So I Married an Axe Murderer, I would sort of be a little more in on the jokes. I don't know, but this one didn't do it. This one hurts. My grade hurts for this because I wanted to like it so badly, but it's just not that good. It's really not. So, all right, up next, let's go to our 2 crime dramas. These are based on real events, both of them. Candy on Hulu and The Staircase, which is on HBO. So we'll start with Candy, and this is about Candy Montgomery, who was accused of axe murdering her neighbor, Betty Gore. So Betty Gore is played here by Melanie Lisnicki, or Lisinski. I never get her name right. And then Candy is played by Jessica Biel. And because of the marriage connection there, she's married to Justin Timberlake. We do see a couple of Timberlake performances here as a recurring role. Jason Ritter is also recurring. So, a few people you might know other than the 2 leads. But this is something that took place in 1980 in Texas. And I don't want to go too far into it if you don't know the trial or the case, because I sure didn't. So it was interesting to kind of watch it play out. My biggest gripe with this, though, is the length. It is very, very slow. I wish it wasn't, because I think the case itself is pretty interesting, but we spend a lot of time with sort of in flashback mode between, okay, present day, this woman, in the first episode basically is when they realize that, this woman, Betty, is not, answering her calls, and her car is there, but nobody seems to be home, and what's going on. So by the end of the first episode, we know, okay, well, this is where the true crime already happened. But a lot of the second episode and on is told in flashback form of, okay, what happened that night, and it unfolds, and that's fine. And that's why Melanie Linsky, even though she gets killed basically in the first episode, her character, we see her throughout this series in flashbacks. This gal, by the way, is having a great year. Yellow Jackets was a very, very successful show on Showtime that she did. And she was just in something else recently, I feel like we were talking about here on TV News and Reviews. But for somebody who I, up until about 2 years ago, knew only as the weirdo next door neighbor on 2.5 Men, she has really, really been choosing some interesting projects and, more importantly, interesting characters. And I would say her character is better than the show that she's in. But, look, everybody loves their true crime, and that's fine. I can get behind it. But I do think once we get into like the 6 episode, 8 episode, 10 episode territory, I do think it's a little much, I have to say. So maybe that's why the pacing for me was not quite working here. I feel like they could have gotten everything quicker. And then because I guess I like sort of the more law aspect of it, and the trial and all that kind of stuff, I guess maybe I would have liked to see a little bit more of that. And I haven't finished the show, so maybe the last like couple episodes is that. But the first couple is really not. We don't see any of that yet, and nobody even suspects her for anything yet. So I think if you're a true crime fan, maybe you could catch on to this one. But I think the second one we're going to talk about is definitely better than this. I'm going to leave Candy with a C+. That's sort of my standard grade, it turns out, in 2022 for these true life crime shows that I like them, and I can get into them, and I can watch them. Like the thing about Pam with Renee Zellweger, I gave that a C+. There was another one, too, that I gave the same grade to. I think the one about was it the girl that prompted her boyfriend to kill himself over text? That whole thing. I think I gave that a C+, too. It's all sort of in that range of, like, this is enjoyable to watch, but it's very slow. The acting's decent, but maybe not outstanding. So that's sort of where I am with Candy as well. But now this next one, I'm going to give a higher grade to. I'll tell you that up front. The Staircase is over on HBO, and this is, yes, it's a true crime drama. And maybe the star power here I enjoy a little more. It's Colin Firth, Toni Collette, and Michael Stuhlbarg. So 3 people I generally enjoy seeing in things. And there's a lot of names in here that you might recognize. Patrick Schwarzenegger, for one thing, Arnold's son. But Dane DeHaan is here. Sophie Turner, Rosemary DeWitt, Parker Posey. So this one is more star-studded, I would say, than the last one for sure. And I do think the premise is a little more interesting here as well. So basically, Michael Peterson is Colin Firth's character, and he is a novelist and political hopeful. And his wife dies in pretty much like the opening scene, so that's not much of a spoiler. But Toni Collette plays her, and we see her, yes, in some flashbacks as well, but not quite as many, because this is more about the investigation. Because he is this very rich guy. Did he kill his wife? Look, and I'm only 2 episodes in, so this is not really a spoiler because I don't know the answer, but I think we've all seen enough true crime shows to know that, yes, he probably did. But, I don't know, so it's not really a spoiler, but I think we can sort of figure that, yes, maybe he did. But so far, it's a lot of stuff about the investigation itself, and, where were you this night? And let's see these flashbacks with Toni Collette to what your story is saying, what you're telling. I guess that's the stuff that I like the most, is the investigation stuff. And that was the issue with the thing about Pam with Zellweger, is that, like, most of it was just the build-up and, like, okay, let's get to know these people and whatever. Whereas I am more, I guess, about the investigation part. That's sort of the part that tickles me. So I guess maybe that is one reason. But the other reason I would say is, talk about acting powerhouses. Colin Firth, I don't know if he's ever given a bad performance. Collette, I would say the same about her, So when they're going toe to toe as, the arguing married couple in a flashback or something, it's great. And then a lot of these other actors we know are playing, family members of his, sons or nephews or cousins or whatever it is. And of course, since he's a rich novelist, there's a matter of, like, what's going to happen if he does go to jail, and can he afford this, $500,000 lawyer and all of this. I found the dramatization much, much more riveting here than I did in Candy. I'll probably finish Candy at some point, maybe before the end of the year. I'll just do a binge on all the true crime shows that I didn't get to finish. But this one is one that I think I would be delighted to finish. I really, really liked most of the stuff about it. I think it's one of the best true crime dramas we've gotten so far this season. I'm going to leave The Staircase with an A-. And then finally, we have 10%. This is a comedy series which you can stream on either Amazon Prime or BBC America, because it is from England, so it's kind of cool. You can watch it a couple of different places, but it is based on this French series called Call My Agent. And 10%, of course, is usually what agents get. So this is all about a talent agency, but some turmoil within the company when the founder unexpectedly dies throws everything into an upheaval. And here we have a few people actually playing themselves in sort of hyper realized versions of themselves, which is always kind of cool. I think most people will know these more in the British realm, but I didn't quite recognize the main woman that they're talking about in these first couple episodes, but in any event, this is, from what I understand, kind of like when the U.S. did The Office, the UK Ricky Gervais Office, and we made it our own. Those first couple episodes are basically verbatim of the UK Office, and from what I understand, this is similar. The first episode or two is almost, the entire script is the same, swapping out, I think, maybe the names of the people and who the celebrities are that come in, but essentially it's the same show as the French version. I'm not sure if that translates, to be honest, all that well. And the other thing that I thought was a little jarring is most of these episodes are a half hour, but the first two are supersized episodes. They're 50 minutes each. And so it sort of threw me because I did not think that it needed to be that long. And I didn't realize it was an extended episode until we were about 35 minutes in, and I was like, this seems like it should have wrapped by now. How long is this? And it was 52 minutes or something like that. But then most of the other episodes are only a half hour. So those first two are supersized episodes, or whatever you want to call them. And I'm not sure that this material lent itself to that. I think this would have been better maybe as a 28, 30-minute show. Most comedies really are not an hour long. Some are every now and then. Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is one. But most of the time when you see an hour runtime, you're like, okay, well, this is a drama. And that makes sense for this show because I got to be honest, I didn't really laugh very much. And, there's some British shows I get and some maybe I don't quite understand. But this is British comedy through French comedy, which I really don't get. So for me, this is a bit of a miss because I think it just is not for an American audience that is not used to British and French comedy sort of combining. Now, maybe once this show kind of gets its own footing and in some of the later episodes deviates from the plots and the scripts of that French version, maybe it'll be a more palatable show. But if this was a comedy, look, most British comedy is either really dark comedy or just sort of wacky. This is definitely sort of more in the dark camp. But we've seen so many shows about talent agents and, sports agents and that sort of, lifestyle and the camaraderie with the client and all of that. And Entourage is a bad example because I think that show stinks, but the first couple seasons were okay. But if you like Entourage, maybe this will be more up your alley, but I think there's way too many of these types of shows already with agents and stuff that are far better. And maybe it's because it's translated, sort of from those French scripts. I don't know. But for me, I leave 10% with a C. All right, so that is going to do it. A couple of real good ones, a couple of ones that you might want to avoid. You may want to watch the Mike Myers one just to see. Maybe it will do it better for you than it did for me. I think it stands at a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes, though, so the results are not good for that one. But anyway, we'll be back next week with more TV news and reviews. Thank you so much for watching, and until then,